what you gonna do, brother? Oh, yeah! Woo! What? What? If you smell what the rock... You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Albowski. The professor may or may not join us at any time now. We haven't heard from him, but he may join us. He may not. But don't adjust your sets, kids, because with me is the one and only Wolfman. How you doing, Wolfman?
And I'm doing good, and I'm in color. I'm not black and white. I'm sitting right here waiting. It's been a while. You've been wanting me on here.
Oh, it's been a long time coming. Chris Vant, thank you for your support, brother. Thank you, as always, popping up on all my shows. Big Chris. So, Wolfman, let's get things started with, tell us the story of, and in your case, no offense, sir, it was a long time ago, you fell in love with professional wrestling and you got involved in the business that you fell in love with. Tell us that story.
Well, before I got in the business of wrestling, I worked as a sideshow freak. I was a fire eater, blockhead, pincushion, you name it, I could do it.
In the carnival, you were a carny. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, I was a carny. We were doing a show.
That's awesome.
Down south, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but the old NWA was there. And it was early in the day. They were setting the ring up for the show and everything. And I wasn't working at the time. I was walking around, and I seen them over in the area setting up the ring. And I went over and just helped set the ring up.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of my wrestling career. I learned how to set rings up.
Okay.
I worked for Earl Hebner for a little while, going around the NWA doing rings and everything. We were in Philadelphia. We did a show in Philadelphia, and Ivan and Nikita Koloff come out of the locker room, see me standing there, and they attacked me and they started beating me up. Well, I wasn't a wrestler back then. I was just ring help. They beat me up. They thought I was Hacksaw Buzz Sawyer. I looked a little bit like Buzz Sawyer.
I know who that is.
I didn't have the tattoos on the head and that yet.
Yep.
And so I'm getting beat up. Earl Hebner's there telling me, stay down, boy. They took me to the locker room and they told me I need to get trained.
Right.
I listened. I knew what to do. So I get back there. I come back to Pennsylvania. I take a trip up to Hanover. And I go to work for a guy named Max Thrasher, the Bounty Hunter. I don't know if you know who he is or not.
That one I haven't heard of.
Okay. He was my trainer. He trained me, taught me how to wrestle and that. But when I first started wrestling, I got in the ring. The first time I ever got in the ring, I got in the ring with a hood over my head. I was called O-Rick Mobstorm. Can you spell it?
No.
I can't either. So I'd go out to the ring. They take me out to the ring. They had a hood over my head. They had a chain hooked to my neck, and they dragged me to the ring. They pulled the chain off my head, or the bag off my head. I had a magic needle. It was that long. There's a long needle you stick through a balloon. I'd take it and stick it through my nose, and I'd start running the ropes. And I'd take bumps with this needle in my nose. Well, that lasted for maybe 6 months while I was being trained proper. And I finally said, hey, look, I don't want to do that no more. I want to change the name. I changed the name to the Canadian Wolfman.
The Canadian Wolfman. Why the Canadian part?
Well, when I was working in the carnival, I was from Canada. They had me listed as from Saskatchewan, Canada. So I just decided to say I was from Canada, you know. And the carny stuff just fell over into the wrestling. You know, I say wrestling's almost like carnival.
Yeah.
You know.
You're performing.
You're performing.
You're a performer.
you're out there working the road. You're entertaining people. You're having fun doing it. You know, I remember my first match that I had with Max Thrasher. It was in New Jersey. We're working, and he tells me to clap his ears. Well, if you know what wrestling is, you know, you clap your ears that way. Well, I clapped his ears.
You clapped his actual ears.
Yeah. Well,
that didn't go over well, I'm guessing.
That was the night I got the payback. You know, but
I have a question here from my cousin Phil asking, where's the professor? I have an update. I have just received word via text message that the professor took a bunch of kids to go see the new Ghostbusters movie, and he forgot all about this interview with you tonight.
See, that I guess I'm not important to the professor.
Wow.
Next time I see him, I might have to lick his face.
Oh, man. I encourage that. I absolutely do. On December 17th, he'll be in Quakertown. But anyway, I am here, and I'm talking to the Wolfman, cousin Phil, and we're having a good time.
Yep.
All right, so continue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's fine. Then when I got hooked into doing the wrestling rings again with Phil and that, and we started doing Eastern Championship Wrestling and a couple other organizations and that. And if anyone knows anything about Eastern Championship Wrestling, it was before ECW.
Right, that's what ECW was before it was ECW.
Exactly. So I got to work a lot of guys down there. I worked guys like the Sandman. Well, I can't think of him. I had his name on the tip of my tongue, but I worked the Sandman.
Tommy Dreamer.
I never got to work Tommy. Tommy came right before I left there.
Sabu.
I got to work Samu, and got to work the
Dudleys.
No, but we have a story about that. All right, you know where the Dudleys got their name from?
No, but you're gonna tell me.
I bet you I can, and if you want me to, I'll go get my wallet and I can prove it right to you.
I believe every word you say.
Right? Now,
hi Tyler.
I started working for them, but I worked a bunch of guys. I mean, my first actual good wrestling match that I had, where I wasn't just getting beat up and doing nothing. I worked Terry Funk.
Oh, well, there you go.
And here's the thing with Terry Funk. I got there. They told me I was working Terry that night. And I was doing the job for everybody. I didn't care who it was. I was learning. That's part of living. That's a part of the business that kids forget. You know, how to lose. You got to lose before you can win. You know, so I was doing these jobs for everybody and that. And they give me a shot with Terry Funk. So Terry comes in. I walk over. I known Terry for a little bit. I told Terry I was working him. I said, "Hey, Terry, I'm working tonight. Tell me what you want to do." He says, "This is what I want you to do, Wolf. I want you, when I go over and sit down in that chair and I put my boots on, you come over and you sit down and we'll talk about the match." So all night long, he'd go over and get something and could leave, and everybody's telling me, "He's going over there. Go follow him over." No. He told me not to follow. He told me to wait for the boots to come on.
Correct.
So this is another thing that I got, you know. So I'm doing all this stuff, and everyone's telling, even Max telling me, he says, "You need to go over and see what he wants." I said, "Max, he told me not to come over until he puts his boots on." We were third to last. So we went through intermission and everything, and Terry comes back. He goes over, he sits down. Now, all night long, he's putting gear on. He put his pants, you know, he put everything on, but he never put the boots on. But, you know, he wore the cowboy boots. He didn't wear light stuff boots.
Right.
So he walks over, he sits down, he pulls his boots out, and he puts one of them on, puts the other one on. I walk over and I sat down. He said, "You did the first thing you were told to do."
Yep.
Listen. He said, "Now, this is what we're going to do."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "You listen to me out in the ring and we'll be good." We went out to the ring. We did what we were supposed to do. I actually got to do a couple things to him. You know,
Wow.
he beat me, but
Right.
oh well. You know,
Right.
I
But he let you get some stuff in.
let me get stuff in, and
Wow.
that was my first experience with a name at that time. And
So Sonny's chiming in. He says, Wolfman, it seems like you got how they say in the business, you got your receipt the same night for clapping his ears.
I sure did. I sure did. I got in a lot of trouble for that, but I was learning, and like I said, I learned the hard way. You don't clap ears like that. You do it the right way.
So you're in Eastern Championship Wrestling. You're getting to work some of the guys that eventually end up in ECW.
Right.
So when did that transition take place? Do you remember what year that was?
I'm not exactly sure what year it was, but what was
93, 94?
It was like 94, 95.
Right.
It was like 94, 95 because I know in 92 I was in the magazine, one of the top 500. I was 497 or something like that.
And you were thrilled about that.
And I was happy as all heck. So as a Canadian,
PWI 500. You were in the PWI 500.
I sure was.
That's awesome.
So I made that and everything, but we get to the point where Eddie Gilbert was running the organization at the time.
Right.
Okay. Eddie was running the organization it was Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
And Paulie came in. And Paulie was there, and we did a bunch of stuff, while both of them were there. And one night, Paulie comes to me and says, "Hey, I want you to let Sandman break a bottle over your head." No. No, if you're gonna break a bottle over my head, no, you can't fix a beer bottle to break over someone's head.
Well,
you can, but it's got to be special.
Well, it's got to be, it's got to be a gimmicked one that they use in the movies, which costs a lot of money.
So we argued about it a little bit, and we cursed each other out, and I told him I was done. So they were in the process of buying a wrestling ring anyway. They were about done using our ring anyway. So I said, "To hell with it." I was going. He said, before I walked out the door, he said, "Wolfman, I'm going to make your name famous." No, you're not. Wolfman is already famous.
Right.
Canadian Wolfman's got it. I've been wrestling long enough. Everyone knows who I am and all that. And so he said he was going to make my name famous. And don't you know, about 4 months later came the Dudley Boys.
Oh, boy.
My real name is Dudley.
Oh, wow.
And, it goes Wolf Baker. My whole name is Dudley Baker.
How about that?
And I can show you my ID and all
I
that.
I believe you.
So here's the thing. They made all these guys and everything, but the two that made that name famous was Bubba and Devon. They were the ones that made that name famous. And it wasn't Paulie. It was those two guys because they knew how to work, and they made me very proud. I was very proud for them carrying my name.
I have 2 questions from fans for you. Tyler, who goes to every 3WA show, and I met him last night, and he's awesome. He says, for a younger person getting into the business, what's your advice? And the same question's asked by Big Chris Vant, who says, what advice do you have for young guys just getting into the business?
Well, if you're getting into the business just because you think you can wrestle and you want population or you want to get rich, you're not going to get rich in this business unless you're in the right place. Right. But what I got to say to you guys that want to get into the business, find yourself a good training center.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and I'm not afraid to say this, and I catch a lot of hell for what I'm about ready to say, but there's a lot of training centers out there that will take your money, beat your ass,
right,
and throw you to the dogs. But
right.
They got your money.
Right.
Find somebody that's not going to do that to you that's going to train you properly.
Especially somebody that has been in the business for quite some time.
Yes. You want to find
Because
somebody that knows what they're
if
doing.
you know, like if it's just, some nobody that you've never heard of, the chance there's a higher chance of he or she have no, all they know about the business is what they've done with their own promotion or with their own thing. But if you get into the business and you learn from somebody who has been in the business for 20 years, 30 years or more, that's where you get to pick their brains. Plus, they get to show you, and in the first, couple of weeks, maybe month, you'll know whether this is for you or not.
Exactly. What I have a training center, but I'm not going to push my training center. But what I am going to say is, if you're out that area by Quakertown and over in Pottstown and all that area over there, there's a gentleman over there that has a wrestling school. His name is Mark Mess.
Yes. Good friend of mine, Wolfman.
Him out. Good friend of mine too. I can tell you a story about me and him.
I love Mean Mark, baby.
Yeah, I do too. But I'll tell you a story about me and Mark, and we got in a lot of trouble though over this.
But you're talking about Dungeon University.
I'm talking about Dungeon University. If you're going to check that out, like I said, I have a training school up here in the York area. We're open Thursday nights, and I tell you, go to the training center, take a couple bumps, find out if it's for you.
What age do you think is around the right age that they should try to do that?
Well, you know who Ken Andrews is.
Yeah.
I trained a gentleman named Ken Andrews. He was 19 years old when he came. Or no, he's 18 years old when he came to me.
Right.
7 now.
Well, they should be at least 18, right?
Yeah, they got to be 18. They got to be at least 18 years old, or you got to get their parents' permission and all that stuff. I've trained a couple young kids, and the thing about learning too early, like I had a young man that came to me. He was 14. Started working with him, and by the time, this kid was good, but by the time he was 18, he was burnt out.
Right.
He wasn't all he could do is come to the training center and work at the training center and go help do the ring and watch everybody.
Hear that, Tyler?
And watch everybody else, He got to the point where when he turned 18, I haven't seen him or heard nothing from him.
Well, right.
It got boring to him.
But back to Mark Mest.
Yes, back to me, Mark Mess. I got to work him I worked Mark a couple of times, but we got to work Mark in a casket match one time.
Oh man!
But before that, the month before he worked the match, and he lost wind and everything, and I told him to just lay there for a little bit. It was the last match of the night. I told him to just lay there for a little bit. Well, somebody took it upon themselves. They thought he had a heart attack. They called the ambulance.
Everybody, paramedics.
We have everybody standing around gawking, watching him and everything. And we're there. And Mark said, "I'm all right. What do I do? We don't want to break kayfabe." So, kayfabe, they say kayfabe did, but still I believe in kayfabe. I believe in.
So do I, and I'm so glad you said that.
I believe in that stuff. But so he got to the point where he's there. What do I do? Do I get up or what? I said, no. I said, just stay there. The fire company's going to bring their people in. They know. I went over and told them what was going on. They cleared the building. Once they cleared the building, he got up, went and got dressed and went home. He was fine. But it was to the point where they had the paramedics and everything there.
Mm-hmm.
So Halloween comes around. I'm wrestling a gentleman named Greg Garvin. Now, at that time, Mark Mess is a heel.
Yeah.
And Greg Garvin is a heel. And of course, I'm the face of the company and everything. We're working the coffin match. They decide they're gonna beat me up after I boxed 2 rounds with him, and I wrestled and pinned him. Mark and a couple other guys came out. They beat me up, threw me in the coffin, took the coffin out back and set it on fire. So, of course, those things burning and everything. The fireman hit me with water and knocked me into shock. And I couldn't catch my breath.
Oh my gosh.
So they wanted to take me to the hospital, and I said, I don't want to go to the hospital and all this. And at that time, I was a member of the fire company, and the chief over there says, Wolfie, you got to go to the you got to go. And the one girl was a paramedic. She says, if you don't want to go in an ambulance, I'll take you in my car. So she took me to the hospital. Everything was great. But Mark and I laugh about that every time we see each other. We laugh about that. Now, it wasn't no one's fault but my own that I got hit with the water, because I got out and a piece of blanket fell and they hit me with the water.
I got a couple more questions for you. Chris says, do you think it's better to have a wrestling background, such as high school or college wrestling? Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It does help in a way. If you have that type of background, or if you have background in karate or something like that, I've trained a lot of guys. I trained a guy that was a boxer, and the hardest thing in the world to do to a boxer is teach him how to throw a punch.
Right, to not hit
without killing you.
Right.
And so but Greg Garvin is the one I'm talking about. I actually boxed him that night, and then we wrestled, and it got crazy, and they did that to me, but it was fun stuff.
Tyler says, do you have to be 18 for most promotions?
In the state of Pennsylvania, yes.
Yeah.
There is no license in the state of Pennsylvania, but there is an age limit. You have to be 18. I would say, how old are you, Tyler?
Yeah, patience, young man. I know he's not 18. He's a teenager, but he ain't 18.
About how old? Ask him how old he is.
He'll tell me. Tyler, how old are you? I never asked him that question. I never ask anybody, young or old, how old they are.
I'm only 18.
Well, I know, and you look every bit of it too.
Wow. I'll be honest. I'm 63 years old, and I have all kinds of problems outside that ring. But when I get in the ring, I move like an 18.
He's almost 15, Wolfman.
He's almost 15. Mm-hmm. Tyler, I'd say if you want to get into the business, wait until you're about 17 years old.
There it is.
You got 2 years to go to the training center, and
well, he's also not done growing at his age either.
And you'll run into a lot of problems. You can run into growth spurts and all that stuff, and all kinds of problems go on. Because
you know what else he can do? I mean, not to step on your toes or anything, but at that age, I mean, he could really be like weightlifting, like hit the gym, is like have the gym become a hobby.
Hey, if he wants to get in, if he wants to get in the business this early, get with somebody and go with ring rentals. Go help with setting up and tearing down the ring. That's part of your part of learning the craft anyway.
Find Mark Mest. I think I told you that, Tyler. I said find Mark Mest.
Yeah.
And he'll show you, at the very least, he can have you help out at shows, setting up the ring and breaking down the ring, and you see the ins and outs of all these guys do, because each and every one of those guys set that ring up and put that ring together at one time or another.
They sure do. I have guys at every show, they come over. At my shows, they come over and they help with the ring and that. We do have some guys at they come and help at Triple WA and at the end of the night and everything.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff. Now, I heard Dino was talking about me on your show.
He absolutely was.
Yeah. I gotta watch the video and see what he had to say about me.
Well, it was all good. It was nothing bad. Like he talked about how he got into the business in the first place. and you were one of the catalysts in that equation. You were when he was trying to get into business in the beginning, it wasn't till he met you to where things really started to roll and he started to actually get in it. Well, but before we get there, I want to know the story of how you left Eastern Championship Wrestling right before it became ECW.
Well, it was because, like I said, it was because me and Paulie got into an argument, and he wanted me to let him break that bottle, and I just said
that was the reason, the break bottle story.
Yeah, that was the reason.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand that. Okay.
I didn't want to get hit in that. I'm brain dead enough. I didn't want to get brain dead too early.
So did anybody take that bump? Did they actually break a bottle over somebody's head?
I don't know. I don't know if they ever did it or not.
I don't remember that.
I mean, I got ran over by a car in the Eastern Championship Road, over by a vet. He ran me over. I took a flip over top of a car. I did stuff like that. Did crazy stuff like that. I got to actually work a spot in Philadelphia in the Sportsman Bar. It was Eddie Guerrero. The four hung together all the time. They just come over from New Japan, and they come down. They were working for us that night, and we did a skit in the bar. There was about three of us sitting there, and we're busting their chops and that. So they beat us up and threw us over some tables and stuff like that. But it was Benoit was there. Man of 1,000 holds. You know who I mean?
Oh man, yeah. Dean Malenko,
and Perry Saturn. So it was those four guys, and I mean, it was fun, but it was paying your dues.
Tyler wants to know, what's your favorite match you ever worked? That's got to be hard to pin that down to one match, no?
In a way, yeah, but like one of my favorite matches was working against King Kong Bundy. And
there's a name.
I got to work King Kong Bundy in Triple WA.
Wow.
I got to work Abdullah the Butcher in Triple WA.
Wow.
I can tell you a story about that. I don't know if Dino told you that story or not, but we're in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, 1999, Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. And one of my biggest dreams was to be able to wrestle against Abdullah the Butcher.
Wow, there you go.
Three people that I wanted to wrestle against in the business. And one of them was Abdullah the Butcher, George the Animal Steel.
Oh, boy.
And Nikolai Volkov. They were the three that I wanted to wrestle. Out of the three, I got to wrestle two of them. I got to Nikolai, and I became real good friends with Nikolai. We were doing a show, and Nikolai's car broke down. A lot of people don't know this about Nikolai Volkov. Nikolai Volkov drove an old beat-up car. He had some good cars, but he drove an old Cadillac to the shows. And every once in a while, it'd break down on the way, and he'd get it towed to a garage, and he'd get a taxi and get to the show. Well, the night we were up north, and his truck broke down. His car broke down and that, but he worked the show and everything. And at the end of the night, he's asking everybody if anyone was going to Baltimore where he lived, anybody going that way. So they were going to take him to Philadelphia and put him on a bus. Well, at that time, I had like 7 or 8 people with me, and one of the girls drove their car up there. So we live here in York. We're only about a half hour from Baltimore.
Right.
So we load him up in the car. They take him home. The following week, I have a wrestling show up here in New York at a fire company. I'm sitting there. It's Friday night. We're getting everything together. And I get a phone call from Nikolai. Nikolai, I heard you. He says, Wolfie. Yeah. He says, you got show? I said, yeah, I got a show tomorrow. He says, I come up and work. I said, Nikolai, I don't have a I don't have the cash to be able to pay you to come up and work for me.
Right.
Don't worry about it. You gave me a ride home. So he come up and he worked the show for me. And I mean, we became, like I said, we became real good friends. But he worked for me probably a good 15, 20 times.
That's awesome.
And, you know, but it was because I showed him that, you know, I wanted to make sure he was safe that night. I didn't want to see him go down to Philadelphia and get on a bus.
Right.
You know, you never know. Because, I mean, I could walk just about anywhere here in New York area, a lot of other places. People know me from everywhere.
Yeah.
And you never know if they're going to try to jump you, if they're going to try you or what.
Right.
You know? So why would you have someone like him go to a bus station? I mean, it's different you take a plane, but not a bus.
You're not kidding. Big Chris fan says, who was your mentor and your wrestling style? Did you adapt a wrestling style from a certain wrestler?
George Animal Steel. Like I said, when I first started out wrestling, I did the Rick Mildstorm with the needle and all that stuff.
Right.
But when I became the Wolfman, when I became the Canadian Wolfman, I did the crazy gimmick.
Right.
Somebody still brought me out to the ring with a chain on my neck.
Yes.
For 3 years, when I first started wrestling, for 3 years I never talked. I had a manager with me. They did all the talking for me. I never signed any autographs.
And that's what George did, right? He never talked. He just made noises.
Yeah. And so
Freaking guy was a professor up in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was a grunt, but I wouldn't. But I'd never say anything to anybody.
That's awesome.
But you know, you get lonely when you're not talking to people. So people started liking me and everything, and working for Dino, and he puts me with a guy that's tag team.
All right, so talk about the start, the beginning of 3WA. How did that begin? Because we heard Dino's side of the story. Let's hear your side of that story.
Well, my side of the story is Triple WA was started before I actually got involved.
Right.
He was looking for somebody with a wrestling ring. And at that time I was working for somebody else doing their ring rentals and all that. And I was only getting paid $75 to $100 after everything was paid for and everything. I'd get $100 out of the deal. And that's what I was getting paid for setting up and tearing down the guy's ring.
Right.
I love the guy and I was working for and everything. I still, you know, he doesn't like me anymore, but I still have no problems with him in my mind. But, I went to a show with Dino, and when I bought my own ring, I told Dino I had a ring. I called Dino and told him I had a ring, and I'm interested in renting it out. And he said, okay. So I took it to him, and it was a handshake. We shook our hands that day when I got there. He paid me for coming and doing the ring rentals and everything. I wrestled for him. I did what I was supposed to do, and probably about 5 years later, I started the SWO up.
Right.
And because I'll tell you a story about that then. But with Dino and that, it was Dino kind of like gave me the chance and let me bring my ring in, and he helped me and I helped him. And that's what he's talking about, where I was part of it, because he never had to worry about a ring again.
Right.
For 30 some years now.
Yeah.
Going on 30 some years, he never had to rent someone else's ring, or I never had to call him and say, hey, I can't make it because I got another ring rental. Dino Santa came first. Right. Now, because we shook hands. And to me, a handshake is a bond. That's your word. You know, you say you're going to do something, you do it. I'm old school. I mean, that's the way I was brought up. My parents brought me up, and you say you're going to do something, you do it.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so talk about SWO. How'd that start, and who did you have when you first started? How many guys did you have?
Susquehanna Wrestling started out. I think I had like 4 guys that were going. They were going to the training center with me and or to shows with Dino and that. They were helping me set up and tear down the ring and everything. And these guys wanted me to train them. And I didn't want to train anybody. I was storing my ring in a 2-car garage. Okay. No pad, or I had pads on the floor. I had the blue tarp down over top of it. And that's where them guys learned how to take bumps. They learned how to bump and how to do their basics on a cement floor with just maybe that much padding.
Right.
And well, the SWO come around. We were one night I come home and my daughter, they got me hooked up here and everything. My daughter comes in the house and she says, "Dad, the school's trying to raise money. They're selling subs and we ain't making any money. Do you think you could do a wrestling show for us?" I said, "Well, let me call Dino and find out if I can get a license and everything and that." So I called Dino, and in the meantime, we're talking about what we were going to do and what kind of name we were going to use. We could have used Triple WA, all right.
Right.
We wanted our own name. So one of the guys at wrestled with me or even managed me for a while, Stu Lepo, okay. He decides that we're going to call it SWO, Stu's World Order.
Right.
Okay. Or it goes, they call it SWO too. But we decided it was Susquehanna Wrestling. So we go to the school, we tell them what we could do for them. We get our first show. Now, the first name that I ever had in Susquehanna Wrestling was King Kong Bundy.
Nice.
King Kong Bundy was coming up to do the show for me, and he was having problems with the gout. So he calls me like 2 days before the show. We have the show all set up. We're selling tickets and everything, and he calls me and he said, "Hey, Wolfie, I can't come. I have the gout. I'm having real bad problems with my leg." I said, "Man, I really need you because it's the first show we're doing." And he says, "Look," he says, "I'll be there." He says, "But I won't be able to wrestle." He says, "But I'll bring somebody with me." He didn't want to tell me who he's going to bring.
Nice.
So he brings somebody with him. We're waiting for King Kong Bundy to get there that day, and we're thinking, who's he going to bring? He going to bring one of his students or something like that. Here, turns out, we're sitting there, and King Kong Bundy gets out of the car with crutches and that, and you know who Big Slam Vader was?
Yes.
That's who he brought.
Wow.
He brought Big Slam Vader.
About that.
To the show. So he sat and signed autographs, and Vader worked. And so we got the show done and everything. We raised enough money for the kids to go on their trip and everything. And I'm thinking, okay, this is done. We don't have to do no more. We're done. North York Fire Company decides to call me. He asked me if I could do a show, if I was interested in doing a couple shows up there at their place. I said, "Look, I'm doing the shows. Give me 3 shows for a year. I'll do 3 shows for you, and after that, we'll talk about doing more."
Right.
So we did 3, and then we did more, and then we did more, and it was like it just got crazy. We did FOP here in York, Internal Order of Police. We did a show out at Hannah-Penn. We had Nikolai on the card. I think we had Bundy on the card that night too. There was a bunch of guys that just, through the years, everybody got to know them and that they come work for me. So that's how SWO got started, just because a school wanted us. I didn't want to train nobody. I was happy doing the ring rentals and wrestling at Dino's.
Right.
Because that's what I was doing. I walked away from Eastern Championship Wrestling. ECW got fired up, and they started going, Now, I see Paulie everyone. When I used to go, Paulie did a show here in York, ECW show here in York for the Harley Davidson plant,
Yeah.
New York Fairgrounds. I went out and I seen him, said hi, talked to him. I watched the show. No hard feelings. I always believe if you have a problem with somebody, and if they show up at someone else's show, you be polite. You be a gentleman. You can only be a gentleman for so long, though. If they don't want to be a gentleman back.
Tyler's asking, where is SWO located?
Susquehanna Wrestling. Right now, we are doing shows at Seven Valleys. That's here in York. We're located. We're from York, Pennsylvania. Is where we're from. I have a training center down on Springwood Road. The address is 2565 Springwood Road. It's in a barn.
I love that.
The ring, yeah, it's old school. If you think about it, where was a lot of the older guys trained back then?
Yeah.
You know, AWA guys were trained in a barn.
Right.
You know, Hogan and all them guys got trained, in a barn.
Right.
So, that's where my training center is. It's in a nice little area of a barn.
And the next show that you guys are going to have, it will be Saturday, December 18th.
Yep, December 18th. We're doing our Christmas show. Santa Claus is going to be there.
There you go.
I actually got a chance to become a champion for the very first time in my wrestling organization. I've been tag team champion, but I've never been the head man with a belt.
Wow.
And I got a chance. I wrestled in a battle royal back at Halloween, our Halloween show. The show at what was it, Wolfie's 1,000 Corpses or whatever.
Yeah, House of 1,000 Corpses. Yeah. I saw that poster with your face, just like the House of 1,000 Corpses movie. And
and
that was pretty cool.
So I won the match that night, and I get a chance to wrestle against a gentleman named Black Piranha. I call him Chicken Fish. But I call him Chicken Fish because I was supposed to, when he first came to the organization, I was going to wrestle against him, and I'm old. Okay, he's a young man. I wanted him to be able to show his wares. I wanted him to get out there and actually show what he could do. So I stepped off and let someone else have my spot.
Okay.
With him. But
who's that other person that you allowed to have that spot?
One of the other younger guys, I think it was Tim Rush.
Okay.
I think that's who it was that they brought in, and him and Tim worked each other that night, and I wanted him to shine. I've already done. I'm 60. I'm 63 years old. I was 60. No, it was 7 years ago. So I was just getting. I was like 58, 59 years old, something like that. I don't know, but you lose time when you get old.
I'm catching up to you.
Yeah.
Tyler says, sadly, I don't think my grandma will allow me to go that far to watch wrestling. Well, Tyler, I happen to know that you live in Quakertown, and you have become a fast fan of 3WA. And the night before Wolfman's SWO show on the 17th, 3WA will have their Christmas spectacular. Santa Claus will be there as well. I happen to know. And I also happen to know that tickets will go fast for that thing, Tyler. So I hope to see you there on Friday the 17th, because I know you will be in Quakertown, because that's where you live.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I got to get down to an SWO show, Wolfman. I absolutely do. And I'll have to drag the old professor with me, too.
Yeah, you need to do that, It's a good show. It's 3 hours, and it's a 3-hour show. And all the guys that I got working for me, they all, I always tell people, and this this is strange, and people, I don't know if you'll understand this or not. I have the toys. I own the name. I own the ring. I own the sound equipment.
Yeah.
I don't own the boys. The boys that come in and work for me, they're what makes SWO what it is today.
Right.
You know, them guys are the ones. They're the ones that make the show shine. You know, I have a gentleman that comes to my show. He's been coming to the shows for a good while now, good 8-9 years, and he says every show says, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do a good show every time. It's because the boys enjoy doing what they're doing.
Right.
They're doing it for the fans. They're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for the fans.
That's what I've grown to respect about independent wrestlers. They do it for the love of the game.
Yep.
All right. Sure, you might have a small handful of guys who are in their low 20s and still think they have a shot at WWE or AEW or something like that. And that's fine. You could chase that dream. I'm never telling anybody not to chase that dream.
Yep.
But there's also guys who have been in the business for 15, 20 years or more, and they just love being in front of that crowd. They just love performing. They just love being in that ring. And whether they win or lose doesn't matter. What matters is what they leave it all in that ring.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to happen to me within the next couple of years. You know, like I said, I'm 63. I'm starting to feel it and everything. I know sooner or later I got to get out of that ring. I know I do, but right. I also know that I can't get in that ring and just beat up on the younger guys. Them guys, it's their time.
Right.
They're the ones that got to shine. And if you get in this business and you feel that you got to win every match you can win, you don't belong in it.
That's what I respect about Ricky Reyes. Keith and I were talking to him last night, right? And he's wrestled in New Japan. He's wrestled in Puerto Rico. He's wrestled on the Lucha Underground show. Yep. He did a couple of things for WWE. Mm-hmm. He's wrestled all over the country and wrestled all kinds of and won titles and different things that he's done. But he got in the ring with Greg the Mechanic Manuel, who's been wrestling for only 2 years.
I trained him.
And they had an incredible match because Greg listened to him, and because and you know, obviously you could say, you know, that you could be a wrestling mark or something and say on paper, well, Ricky Reyes should kill that kid, right? But who won that match? Greg the Mechanic Manuel won that match. Ricky Reyes didn't have to do that.
No.
But I respect that. I respect the hell out of him for doing things like that for the young talent.
Look at the match, not last month, not this month, the month before with Miami.
Yeah,
he worked. Okay, he's been in the E. He's been all over the world.
Matt Cardona
and Matt Cardona. Nobody can ever tell me that Matt Cardona is nothing but a gentleman. He loves this business.
Yeah.
You know? And that's like Ricky Reyes. Ricky Reyes loves this business and he does what he can do. We're here now. Some of us guys, we've been where we've been. But we're here now to let the younger generation move up.
I mean,
I can't stand someone that takes and they gotta have a belt on them all the time. They own the organization. They got to hold the belt all the time. They can't let anyone else win the belt, or if they do, they only put it on for them a little bit, and the following month they got it back.
Right.
You know, everybody needs a chance. You know, and like I said, it's been 20 years now that SW has been around, and I've never held a heavyweight title in my organization. Now, I keep telling Chicken Fish every time I get a chance that sooner or later I am going to wrestle him and I'm going to take that title from him. And when I do, I'm going to be proud because I got a young man and I watched and I left, move on, and I didn't hold back when he came to the organization, you know, and I figured at that time I was fighting an injury. I was 300 and all but 395 pounds at that time. I was heavy as all heck.
Wow.
I mean, I was out of shape. And I would have made the kid look like crap. And I didn't want to do that. And there's not too many people in this business that would say that.
Right.
You know, I don't believe in making somebody look like crap. I'm going to do my best. And the day that I feel that I can't make somebody shine is my day to step out.
How much do you pay attention to wrestling on TV? Do you watch any of it nowadays, or do you just watch old school stuff?
I watch a lot of old school stuff. A lot of people tell me that AEW is good and everything.
It's getting there. It's not. It's getting there.
Well, again, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. This is not your opinion, not anyone else's opinion. This is my opinion.
Sure.
EW was going to be a good organization, but they bring too many guys that should have been retired by now.
All right. Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, let the younger gen. It's time. Hulk Hogan and all these other guys, the Giant and all these guys, they made their money. They need to step back. Let the younger guys, the newer guys, come in and become the man.
Right.
Now, look at Ric Flair, how long he hung on. You know, the movie.
Amazing.
The movie, The Wrestler.
Yeah.
That actually can hit home on some of us guys. You know, we hold on too long.
Sometimes.
I know, like I said, I know I'm scheduled. I'm soon going to be getting out of that ring, and it's going to be hard for me because I've done it.
Because you love it.
I've done it a good many parts of my life.
You love it. It's a family member to you.
Yeah. I mean,
the minute you can't wrestle anymore, or the minute you decide you can't wrestle anymore, you're going to feel like you've lost a loved one.
Oh, yeah. And
still wrestling at 63 is amazing, says Tyler.
I can't, I can't sing. I can't dance. I have to do something. When I first started, like I said, out, I worked a sideshow. I did magic. I did all that stuff. I've always entertained. My older brother was a singer. My older brother weighed 775 pounds. His name was Barry. They did a big article on him and that. He had a chance to go and sing at the Grand Ole Opry and everything. Mom and Dad wouldn't let him. My mom could sing and Dad played an instrument, but they didn't give him a chance. Well, when I was 12 years old, I decided that I was going to be a performer. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was going to do something.
Right.
And I ran away with the carnival. I rode to, I don't know if you know what it is, the Wall of Death. The big round room with the motorcycles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I did that. Then I fell and got hurt doing that. And a lady named Elsie Sutton, rest her soul, she put me to work in her sideshow. And I learned.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for chiming in, brother.
I learned how to stick needles in my arm and in my nose and in my mouth and all that crazy stuff. Then I learned how to lay on a bed of nails, learned how to eat fire, all crazy stuff like that. That made me a performer. I got to perform.
You wanted that. That's what you've always wanted, and that's what you still do to this day. And
that's exactly what it is. I figure every time I get in that ring, I'm performing for the fans, and I'm gonna know when I'm done because the fans are gonna let me know.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up with something that's near and dear to your heart, and I don't know if anybody watching can see behind you, but you have a horror collection.
Yes, I do.
You are a horror enthusiast.
Yes, I am.
Tell us about that a little bit, because if I recall, on Halloween, you came out dressed like Hillbilly Jim and you danced the do-si-do.
Yes, I did. That's because, like I said, Hillbilly Jim and that was also a part of me watching wrestling and that.
Oh, I loved Hillbilly Jim. Believe
Uh,
me, I'm barely old enough to have seen a lot of Hillbilly Jim back in the '80s, but yeah.
if you remember, or if you ever see me, I do the headbutt.
Yes.
I do the rolling out. That's tribute to the Junkyard Dog.
Nice.
Okay. Uh, I always liked Hillbilly Jim. I think I should have done more with him, but
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I,
Are you kidding? Why did Hillbilly not have maybe a run at the Intercontinental title or something?
exactly. But I pay respect. Pay respect to people that I really like. I
He was
do.
a mountain of a man too.
Yes, I do George Animal. Some stuff that George Animal Steel did, uh, because they were my favorite people.
He got close. He had a run with he wrestled the Macho Man at WrestleMania 2.
Yes, he did. When I got into, well, I've always liked Halloween. Halloween is my Christmas.
Right.
Right? My Christmas is already gone. Christmas, and to me, Christmas means something a lot different than what it is today. Christmas is when Jesus was born.
Right.
And I'm not going to get into that, but that's a Christmas.
Yeah.
This to me, this is fun. This is I have skeletons on both sides of my computer.
Yeah.
I have Chucky up here, a couple other things, but I even have. I may not be able to get him out. I even had the Wolfman. Yeah, and
I was going to ask you what your favorite horror film is, but most people could probably guess it's the Wolfman.
And then I went over to Field of Screams when they first 29 years ago. I went to with a couple of friends. We went over to Field of Screams.
That's over in Jersey, right?
No, that's over here in Pennsylvania. Too.
Oh, okay.
Over in Lancaster here. I went to Field of Screams, went through and everything. I liked it, and I kind of met the gentleman that owns it, the Schoaf brothers, Jim and Gene, and I went and I helped them build some of the illusions and that over there.
Oh, neat.
I worked for Gene for like 10 years doing stuff off and on, but they wanted to bring a couple wrestlers in to Field of Screams.
Really?
So one of the wrestlers that we brought in, I don't know if you can see the picture, but can you see the picture?
No, I can't. Reflection.
Okay, yeah. Stevie Ray's brother.
Booker T?
Booker T. We brought Booker T in because I knew how to get a hold of some people to be able to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
We brought Booker T in, and we had what the heck was her name? I can't think of it. We're trying to get at the time. I can't think of her name, but she came to be a woman over there and that, and but it's always been my thing to go over there and have fun. I was over there this summer or this winter. That's where the costume came from. The hillbilly costume.
Yeah.
I sat on a bus in Knox Eternal Wasteland over there. I sat on the bus and I sat there. Boo! What's up? And people jump. And I don't wear a mask. All these years that I've worked over there, I never wore a mask. And I scare more people without a mask than I do with a mask.
All right, man. Well, we're going to get out of here, but if you guys want to see the Wolfman in action, he will be at 3WA on December the 17th, and he will also be at the SWO Christmas show on December the 18th. And Santa Claus will be at both of those shows, and so will the Wolfman. And, man, this hour went flying by. I know we could probably talk all night long, but I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I did too.
I hope you had fun, but tell you what, one last question I'm going to ask you, and that is, I usually at the end of every interview, I flip the script and I say, is there anything you want to ask me? you're going to interview me now for a minute. Is there any question you would like to ask me?
Oh, okay. We were talking a little bit earlier. You said you've interviewed a lot of people. Who was your favorite interview
Well,
in the 2 years you've started? And
uh,
because you're interviewing me, don't say me because, like I
yeah,
said,
no,
I mean,
it's yeah, I could say you. I can say you, or I could say Dino, of course. But
we're promoters now.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat because you know, he believed in my show before even I did. He's a friend of a friend,
Right.
and I told him about this concept about I want to start a show where our main purpose is to take independent wrestlers, young talent, but also mix in some guys who have been in the business for a long time to tell wrestling stories, but then build an audience so that a young guy like a Flash Carter or somebody like that could come on this show and let everybody know who they are. And
Yeah.
all I've been trying to do is build a platform. Well, he heard that. He says, "Well, I'll help you. I'll help you get more people and more viewers. Have me on your show." And I couldn't believe what I was hearing when I heard him say that. I was on a conference call with my friend, and they got Stevie Ray on the other line, and he lives out in the Pittsburgh area. He's a big Steelers fan,
Uh-huh.
and he does he does a bunch of podcasts and stuff like that. And he was starting to promote his podcast. He goes, "I'll come on and I'll talk about my whole career, and I won't charge you a dime. But all I ask is that we get to talk about my podcast." I said, "We could talk about anything you want." And if you haven't seen that interview, I suggest you go on my YouTube channel on 2M1L Media and you go down, you scroll down all the interviews that we've done. And Stevie Ray is one of the earlier ones from a little bit over a year ago. And it was an absolute thrill to talk to a Hall of Famer like that.
Yeah.
But if you take Stevie Ray out of the equation, because he's obviously the biggest name I've interviewed or that people know in the wrestling business, you and Dino were really good. Were really good interviews. You guys have lots of stories. You guys have been in the business for a long time, and as promoters, you have a different viewpoint on wrestling than say the performers do. But if I had to pick a wrestler, like a younger talent, I'd have to say Merrick Miami, only because the first time that I had him, because I watched Merrick Miami 2 years ago when he wasn't Merrick Miami, and then where he has come in those 2 years is awesome. And I just think that if he works hard, I think that he can do whatever he wants to do in this business if he really wants to. You know, if he's if he stays at it and if he works hard, I think he can do whatever he wants to do in this business, and I hope he does.
I watched Merrick Miami and a couple other guys. I met some of the guys. They came to me and we talked. Merrick Miami came through my school. I didn't really train him. We kind of fine tuned him a little bit,
Yeah,
a little bit, and everything. And I'm not going to say a lot, but I got to watch them guys grow. And it's been 7 years that I've known a lot of the guys that I've helped through, and that. And I watched him go from a young kid to what he is now, and he's very humble.
yeah,
He's very humble. He does what he has to do, and I believe that the match he had with Matt Cardona rocketed him.
Oh yeah,
It helped him a lot.
he loves this business too, and that helps. I mean, if you love what you do, and his dream is to make a living loving doing what he loves.
Oh yeah, and we all do that. We get into something that, like I said, it was carnival. Now it's wrestling, and wrestling's been a part of my life for a good almost 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like it's all close to 40 years. I'm pretty sure, because it was 1982 when I first ran into the NWA, or got involved with NWA, and so I've been around wrestling.
I've been involved in wrestling as a fan for almost the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
When I ask that question to people that I have on this show, a lot of times they ask me, what, earlier you asked me, how did I get into wrestling? How did you get into wrestling? And my answer is always the same. I was a kid, 7 or 8 years old, and we're talking 1983 or 84. And Hogan had just won the belt that January.
Yep.
And so that summer they were doing tapings for Superstars of Wrestling in Hamburg. And my stepfather took me to every time that they did TV tapings in Hamburg or in Allentown at the Agricultural Hall. So I was bouncing back and forth between them every month or so. He would take me and get me as close to ringside as possible so I could maybe either high five some of the wrestlers or something like that. Because I always, as a kid, I liked Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and everybody like that. But my favorite guy was Rowdy Piper, because I always rooted for the bad guys, and he was the bad guy, right? He was like the loudest guy. He was the most obnoxious guy, and he had that Piper's Pit thing. I fell in love, Wolfman, with professional wrestling when I was a kid. I was 50 feet away from Roddy Piper on Piper's Pit, smashing the coconut on Jimmy Superfly Snuka's head. I was in the building. I was maybe 50 yards away from that.
I got to actually wrestle in the Hamburg Fieldhouse. It's the Mecca.
And I'll never, ever forget that moment. And that is the moment I fell in love with pro wrestling.
I think the moment I used to sit with my Aunt Mary, when I was a kid. I mean, I was a little badass. I'd go over to their house and she'd make me sit right alongside of a rocking chair. As soon as I got in the house, I was on the floor, watching TV.
I watched it with my grandmother all the time.
Saturday morning, she watched wrestling. After wrestling, we watched 1,000 Leagues Under the Sea, stuff like that, and it was crazy. But she got me into wrestling. That was my first time I ever got to see George Animal Steel and guys like that when I was a kid, and I kind of got away from it because I lost my right eye at the age of 8 years old, and I was told that I couldn't do any kind of sports. Growing up in school, I couldn't wrestle, I couldn't play football, I couldn't play basketball. But I wasn't able to do anything. But I've always wanted to perform.
Yes. And
finally, I said, to heck with it. I had a chance to go and talk to Max Thrasher. He put me where I am today, and that's one of my biggest. One of my biggest dreams. One of my biggest dreams is to actually, when I am ready to retire, is to bring Max Thrasher, the Bounty Hunter, out of retirement and have him wrestle against me.
Your last match.
My last match. That's my biggest dream.
That would be awesome, and if that happens, I want to be ringside.
That's one of my biggest dreams. I trained a midget, also, Shovelhead Chuck. I trained him, and he retired a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And when he retired up at the church show right before Corona hit.
Right.
And I didn't know he was retiring. So he did his match. He worked Tommy Vex. And after the match was over, he calls me out to the ring and he gives me his vest.
Oh, wow.
And he tells me, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And
sometimes they just know, right?
Yep. But when I trained him, he went and he worked for Hulk Hogan's Midget Wrestling. He did some other stuff. He was Cole, remember the midget show, WWF, when they did the thing with all the midgets, and they had midget Cole, midget Jerry Lawler.
Yes.
At the ring. Well, the one that played Cole was actually the young man that I trained.
Awesome.
And but I have his jacket, and someday I hope to hand it back to him and put him in the ring one more time. So,
well, Wolfman, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you for an hour. Don't go anywhere when I go off the air. And to the rest of you guys, you want to see him December 17th in Quakertown and December 18th, the SWO show in Seven Valleys, right?
Yep, Seven Valleys, PA.
Seven Valleys, Pennsylvania. So if you're in the Pennsylvania area, you want to see this man and everything he brings to the table as far as professional wrestling goes, December 17th and December 18th. I'm the Big Albowski. He was the Wolfman. It was an absolute pleasure, sir. And we'll see you next time on Around the Turnbuckle.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you gonna do, brother? Oh yeah! Woo! What?